My roommate is addicted to pleasing men and even wants to go to a private clinic for intimate injections. She says that as long as she grows succubus tentacles, she can become a beauty in the eyes of men. I advised her not to go to unlicensed clinics for injections, as the so-called succubus tentacles could very well be a sexually transmitted disease caused by cross-infection, but she thought I had ulterior motives and ended up selling me to an old bachelor in the mountains. Scheming bitch. I bet you're just jealous that my charm with men is better than yours, so you deliberately stopped me from awakening my succubus physique. Later, I was chained to a bed by an old bachelor in the mountains and tortured to death. When I opened my eyes again, she was holding a brochure from a plastic surgery clinic, her eyes gleaming. There are even private injections now. Su Yuan, do you think I should go? I smiled slightly and nodded in response. Of course I'm going, why wouldn't I, Su Yuan? Let me tell you, there's a plastic surgery clinic that claims they can awaken succubus traits through injections and even make succubus tentacles grow. Hearing Shani's voice, I instantly felt a surge of anger. My most vibrant decade was spent chained to a Kong bed with an iron chain as thick as an arm by an old bachelor, tattered bedding, and a hard, painful earthen Kong bore witness to the misery of my later years. After a party, I was knocked unconscious by my roommate Shani and handed over to human traffickers. 30,000 yuan, transferred to my card immediately tomorrow. The man beside me looked me up and down with a scrutinizing gaze, finally revealing a lecherous smile. Shani shot me a disdainful glance, her face showing undisguised contempt. I screamed and struggled, my eyes filled with confusion. Shani, I have no grudge against you. Why are you trying to harm me? Strangely enough, my relationship with Shani wasn't particularly bad. In fact, most of the time, I took great care of her. Unexpectedly, after hearing this, Shani raised her hand angrily and slapped me hard across the face. You scheming bitch, what are you pretending for? If it weren't for you stopping me from getting the private injections back then, I wouldn't still be without my succubus awakening. It was only then that I fully understood. Originally, Shani has always resented me for stopping her from getting intimate plastic surgery back then. On top of that, the Jiang Yen she liked ended up confessing to me later. Ever since then, she has held a grudge against me. She believes that I only pretended to stop her from getting the injections, but in reality, I wanted to keep the benefits for myself, secretly awakening my succubus physique behind her back, all to win over Jiang Yen in one fell swoop. But in reality, I wouldn't go crazy enough to torture my own body to please a man. Su Yuan, I'm asking you, tell me, should I really get the private injection? It's the succubus tentacle. Once I grow succubus tentacles, I'll become a woman that men can't get enough of. Familiar words echoed in my ears. Never did I expect that I would truly be reborn. Having escaped the hell that held me captive, I returned to the university I had longed for day and night. At this moment, Shani was holding a flyer, staring at me with a suspicious gaze. Su Yuan, why aren't you saying anything? Don't tell me you don't want me to go. Recalling the tragedy of my previous life, I gave a cold smile. How could that be? If you want to do it, go ahead. If I remember correctly, that institution later made the news due to a major cross-infection incident. Shani, in particular, became the most severely injured person in this medical accident due to excessive injections, syphilis, AIDS, genital warts, gonorrhea. She didn't miss a single one. When she was taken to the hospital, she was practically a walking biohazard. Even after her condition was brought under control, no one wanted anything to do with her. So, since she was so eager to grow succubus tentacles, let her be. After all, it won't be me. Upon hearing my response, Shani's expression finally softened considerably, yet, she still seemed somewhat uneasy. Before going out for the private injection, she repeatedly warned me, Su Yuan, I'm warning you, don't you dare sneak off to get an injection behind my back. In the entire A university, I must be the only one to awaken the succubus constitution. With that, she clicked away in her little high heels and left the dorm. Just when I thought the world could finally be quiet, my childhood friend Song just suddenly found me. The moment he saw me, he couldn't help but question, Su Yuan, I heard that Shani went for private plastic surgery. Do you know how unsafe this is? She's your roommate. Why didn't you try to dissuade her? In my previous life, ever since Songja told me he liked Shani, he constantly asked me to look out for her. Every time I wanted to refuse, he would use the excuse of, we're all brothers, to guilt-trip me. Because of my childhood friend's words, during that period, I spent both money and effort, but later on, my childhood friend remained indifferent even after learning that it was Shen Yi who had sold me. Even when interrogated by the police, he pretended to be unaware. He even helped Shen Yi lie. In the end, Shen Yi was acquitted, but I having missed the best rescue opportunity, was forever trapped in the deep mountains. My family and friends were devastated by my disappearance. Only Songja remained as if nothing had happened. He continued to follow Shani around, acting like a devoted admirer. This time, I will never be the tool for Songja's outsourced love. Not only that, but I will also give him a good helping hand. It would be best to lock up the scumbag Shani and the despicable woman Songja together for good. The Songja before me had a gloomy expression. His eyes were also filled with a strong sense of accusation, as if the responsibility for Shani taking such a dangerous action lies entirely with me. I was instantly filled with anger. Songja, are you out of your mind? Why should I persuade her? If you like Shani so much, why don't you try persuading her? Hearing my words, Songja's eyes flickered with a hint of guilt. Shani was as stubborn as a mule, refusing to listen to anyone else's advice. Even when you kindly tried to persuade her, she ended up resenting you instead. It was obvious Songja himself didn't go to persuade Shani because he was afraid she would hold a grudge against him. From then on, she never spoke to him again. Seeing his evasive gaze, I understood instantly. To be honest, Shani and Songja are equally skilled at being disgusting. In that case, I should help these two out as well. I'll do my best to pair them up, so that a slut and a dog can be together forever. So, I forced down my disgust and gently persuaded Songja, oh, why bother with this? Needs to awaken her succubus physique through injection. Such a fortunate event isn't something everyone gets to experience. Upon hearing this, Songja's expression instantly froze. But, isn't this just a joke? What if something really goes wrong? What to do? Well, just let it be, but I still need to put on a good show on the surface. I patted Songja on the shoulder and sincerely comforted him. The winning rate is 0, but, he was about to stand up when I pushed him back down. Oh, what are you worrying about? Knows what she's doing. Besides, if she really awakens a succubus physique in the future and grows succubus tentacles, won't you benefit too? She wants to get the injection now but is short on money. If you're willing to spend money on her, winning her over will be a piece of cake. Hearing this, Songja's eyes lit up. He finally gave up on persuading Shani. He then began to encourage her wildly. The tens of thousands in injection fees were transferred without hesitation. With financial support, it wasn't long before I saw their public photos on social media. With Songja's encouragement, Shani went to that private institution almost every day for intimate injections. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed since Shani became addicted to intimate injections. Shani and Songja often stay out overnight. What they go out to do goes without saying. It's one thing to go out, but she even frequently sends me messages to show off her injection results. Su Yuan, let me tell you, intimate injections are truly the greatest invention in the world. After one course of treatment, I clearly felt myself becoming tighter than before. Even her irregular periods became a source of bragging. Su Yuan, just you wait, I'm about to become a woman that men can't get enough of. The thought of these two infecting each other in bed makes me want to vomit. For the sake of my own health, I quickly applied to the counselor to move out of the dormitory. With me gone, only Shani was left in the dorm. However, she seemed to enjoy the solitude. After I left, she could finally vent about me to Songja without any restraint. However, due to the excessively frequent injections, her lower body began to experience discomfort. At first, it was just a dull ache once a week. By now, it had developed to the point where it hurt every day. But Shani had no intention of going to the hospital for treatment. She firmly believed this was a sign that her succubus constitution was about to awaken. Every evening, she would sit on the toilet, holding a mirror to examine herself carefully, afraid of missing the spectacular moment when the succubus tentacles would emerge, until one day, Shani's lower abdomen and private parts erupted with unbearable pain. She couldn't hold on and fainted on the spot. Immediately after, I received a call from Shani's mother. As soon as I picked up, a shrill voice came through the phone. Su Yuan, you heartless little bitch, who allowed you to move out of the dorm without my permission. If it weren't for you, my daughter wouldn't have fainted for hours before being discovered. You come back right now, buy some food and come to the hospital to take good care of her and apologize. Shani is the apple of her mother's eye. In my previous life, on the day of the freshman enrollment, I was stopped on the spot by Shani's mother, just because I was in the same dormitory as her precious daughter. She ignored my excessive luggage. He just stuffed a lot of Shani's things into my hands without explanation. At that time, I was still quite naive. I didn't know how to refuse in such situations. Moreover, my parents weren't around. I could only helplessly watch as her mother stuffed her daughter's luggage into my hands. The mother and daughter walked ahead with empty hands, looking so carefree. Meanwhile, I followed behind them, step by step, feeling as exhausted as a dog. I had thought that at the very least, I would receive her mother's gratitude. I never expected that as soon as I arrived at the dorm, I would hear Shani's mother's disdainful voice. "Goodness, it took you so long to move just this little bit of luggage, making us wait for you upstairs for ages." After that, she even asked for my WeChat every day. She assigns me tasks to take care of her daughter, making me check in like it's a daily routine. If I miss a single day of clocking in, she bombards me with messages. She acts like a complete lunatic. This time, she even blamed me entirely for Shani's fainting spell, even though Songja is much closer to Shani than I am, but she only blamed me for not taking good care of her daughter. But if I could do it all over again, I would be different from before. I leisurely applied a face mask. I comfortably nestled in the sofa, watching TV and chatting at the same time. "No, Auntie, I'm going out today and I'm really busy. I don't have any time to take care of Shani. Why don't you ask Songju instead?" Upon hearing my response, the other side instantly exploded. "How can we ask Songja? Songja is usually so busy, unlike you, who does nothing all day and is bored to death. Don't try to bargain with me either. I'll give you half an hour to get ready, then hurry over." It's really ridiculous. Someone like Shani, I feel disgusted even looking at her. How could I possibly go and take care of her? So, I refused again, unexpectedly. Her mother got angry out of embarrassment and started lecturing me over the phone. "It's not right for E to be sick with no one to take care of her. How can you only think of yourself at a time like this? You really don't act like a girl at all, with no sense of compassion. You should help each other among classmates. Don't you understand such a simple principle? With an attitude like yours, I doubt any man would dare to want you in the future." After saying that, without waiting for me to argue back, she hung up the phone with a sharp click. Meanwhile, the small clinic in the county didn't diagnose Shani with anything either, and her aunt came when she went, so in the end, Shani came back with 2 boxes of ibuprofen instead. Because my mother is a doctor, have been influenced by her since childhood. In my previous life, I had subtly reminded Shani that she might have contracted an STD. It is recommended that she go to the hospital for a 4-item infectious disease test after her aunt leaves. While you're at it, go to the gynecology department for an HPV screening. However, Shani thought it was with ulterior motives. She immediately stood up from her spot and started yelling at me in the clinic. "You're making me go through all these tests for a little illness. Are you profiting from pushing these procedures? I get it now. You must be a medical tout sent by my mom, trying to scam me out of my money. You heartless doctor, I'll expose her." After saying that, she went on a rampage like a mad dog, viciously slandering my mom across various social media platforms. And because of this incident, my mom became the target of a nationwide online mob, being verbally abused by patients during her consultations. She even suffered from medical harassment, with multiple stab wounds to her chest. She ultimately died at the post she had always steadfastly held. Until her death, she continued to bear the stigma of being labeled an incompetent doctor. Yet, Shani believed she had done nothing wrong. On the day my mother passed away, I posted a selfie from my trip with the caption, "It feels so good to help the people eliminate pests. Let's congratulate City A on losing a black-hearted doctor." After a while, Shani posted another comment in the comments section. "E has received everyone's praise. Exposing incompetent doctors is everyone's responsibility, and E will continue to work hard in the future." God knows how much I wanted to kill her with my own hands after seeing this moment. However, before I even had the chance to act, she forcibly sold me into the mountains. At that time, Shani was immersed in the joy of getting rid of me every day, and she had no idea that she had already contracted AIDS by then. If she had followed my advice, she could have taken medication in time to control it. It wouldn't have come to the later stage where the immune system completely collapsed due to inadequate prevention. Countless illnesses would have plagued her. So this time, I have decided to remain completely silent, allowing Shani to become a breeding ground for various sexually transmitted diseases. As the cauliflower grew more and more, Shani's body became increasingly weak, and her complexion turned sallow. Seeing her daughter's current state, Shin's mother was greatly shocked. She sent me several 60-second voice messages in a row. "Su Yuan, where on earth have you been all this time? How did my daughter end up like this? Did you not take good care of her? It must be that issue with the succubus tentacles. You need to take her to the hospital for a checkup as soon as you have time." To me, this is all your mother's fault. She's a doctor, yet she didn't even offer to take a look at our EE. It's like the saying, what kind of chicken lays what kind of egg? A whole family of heartless, despicable people. I was so angry that my eyes were practically shooting flames. Does she think Shani is the center of the world in their family? Why should everyone revolve around her? Besides, in my previous life, it wasn't like I didn't help Shani consult my mother about her condition, but what was the result? It was her ignorance that caused my mother to lose her life for nothing. I immediately sent a screenshot of the chat log to Shani, and I kept adding fuel to the fire. Be careful, Auntie is already unhappy about you getting injections, and she even asked me to take you to the hospital. If you really go to the hospital, once they zap you with the laser, all the demon tentacles you've worked so hard to grow will disappear. Sure enough, right after I finished saying that, Shani's mom immediately called me in a relentless barrage. The first thing she said after answering were dirty words. What the hell, Su Yuan, what exactly did you say to my daughter? Why does she hit me as soon as she sees me? Did you put her up to it? My daughter has always been obedient since she was a child. It must be you. It must be you who incited her to beat her own mother. The words had just left her mouth. From the other end of the phone came Shani's frantic roar. Old woman, I already told you, what's growing on me are succubus tentacles. Who gave you permission to set your sights on them? Her mother was caught off guard and slapped by Shani. Ouch, she cried out, falling heavily to the ground. However, it was also because of Shani's outburst this time. Her mother finally dared not to entertain the idea of demon tentacles anymore. Moreover, the doctors at the plastic surgery institution relentlessly brainwashed the mother and daughter. Now, not only did Shani firmly believe that the injection could awaken the succubus physique, even her mother, who was over 50, was clamoring to get the injection, preferably one day to have tentacles all over her body. The mother and daughter duo transformed into a pair of peerless beauties, secure outstanding men from all age groups. After sharing a common belief, Shani and her mother grew increasingly close. Every weekend, they would make appointments to go to the institution for injections together. With the two of them loving and caring for each other, my life has become much more peaceful, until one Monday, my counselor suddenly called me. Hello, Su Yuan, if I remember correctly, Shani is your roommate, right? The counselor's voice sounded quite urgent, and I could tell right away that something serious had happened, so I immediately responded, yes, counselor, Shani is indeed my roommate. Recently, some classmates have reported to me that your roommate, Shani, is suspected of raising a giant octopus in the dormitory. Not only that, but there has also been a terrifying foul odor near your dormitory, both stinky and fishy, extremely pungent. So far, 3 cleaning aunties have been hospitalized because of it. Hearing this, I couldn't hold back any longer. Raising a giant octopus, does she even have the time for that? The counselor on the phone sounded increasingly anxious. If you can get in touch with Shani, make sure to tell her that if she doesn't come to my office by this weekend, the dormitory manager will forcibly open the dorm room. If any banned items are found at that time, you'll also be deducted credits. Since Shani had been ignoring messages, I had no choice but to go back to the dormitory myself. As soon as I reached the dormitory door, a foul, fishy stench hit me, making it hard to even open my eyes. Just as I was about to unlock the door with my key, Shani suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Then, she pushed me aside with a forceful shove. It was easy to see from her expression that she had put all her strength into that push just now. However, due to her extremely poor physical condition at the moment, even with all her might, the force she exerted only caused me to stagger slightly. At this moment, she was trying to hold the door back with her frail body. Su Yuan, this is my dorm room, and I don't allow you to enter without my permission. Ignoring Shani's sinister glare, I casually pushed her aside. Shani, have you injected so much that your brain is clogged? I paid the dormitory fee at the start of the semester too. You have no right to control me. After saying that, I reached out and grabbed the doorknob. Since I moved out of the dorm last time, I hadn't seen Shani for quite a long time. Seeing her again this time, I couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. The person before me had a sallow complexion, looked weak, and her figure was as thin as a skeleton. Yet, when she saw me about to break in, she still desperately tried to stop me. Su Yuan, did you even hear me? I told you, you're not allowed in. She was trembling with anxiety, but I still pushed the dormitory door open. As soon as I entered the dormitory, I was completely stunned by what I saw. Right on my bed, a giant octopus was trembling its tentacles, chomping away at its meal. The air around it was suffocating. The stench hit the top of my head. What puzzled me, however, was, isn't this octopus a marine creature? How did it manage to leave the ocean and come to eat on my dorm bed? It can't be that Shani raised a mutated species. Can it? Shinee over there seems to be very afraid of people discovering something in the dorm. As soon as I entered, she suspiciously locked the door from the inside. I'm back, Shinee called out. The giant octopus on the bed heard Shinee's voice. It immediately paused its movements, turning its head to look toward the door. After recognizing the person, I immediately felt relieved. You're finally back. You don't know, but after you left, the dorm's supervisor came by again. She said that the school leaders will be inspecting the dorms this Friday. If they find any banned items, they'll give you a demerit. If the violation is serious, you might even be expelled. Daughter, what should we do now? If I leave the school, where else can I find such a place with such strong yang energy? It was only at this moment that I finally realized the unidentified creature on my bed was not an octopus at all. It was Shinee's mother, and those unidentified tissues resembling tentacles. It is composed of one granulation after another. A massive granulation is used as the base. Other fragmented granulations are arranged and extended outward in sequence until they form tentacles resembling those of an octopus. Meanwhile, her mother has temporarily lost her vision due to the tentacles growing from her eyeballs. From beginning to end, my presence was never detected. Discussing her physical condition with Shinee right in front of me without any caution, I had thought her mother would be extremely anxious, but unexpectedly, her words were filled with incomprehensible excitement. Mommy's tentacles are growing more and more beautifully. The director said that as long as I get through this stage, I can successfully awaken my succubus physique. At that time, not only will my body experience a qualitative leap, but I will also become a human masterpiece. When Shinee heard this, her dull eyes finally regained their sparkle. Really, Mom, don't worry, I will definitely help you transform safely. Judging by your condition, you will definitely awaken your succubus physique by Friday. Just stay in your dorm and absorb yang energy, leave the rest to me. I was stunned on the spot after hearing that. I never expected that such a small cosmetic institution could brainwash customers to this extent. Such powerful pyramid selling tactics are truly a first for me. Fortunately, I had made ample preparations before coming. Not only did I wear protective clothing under my clothes, but I also carried a gas mask with me, and at this moment, after seeing the beautiful mental state of this mother and daughter, I have also been grateful more than once that I made sufficient preparations. Otherwise, in such an environment, I truly wouldn't dare to stay for even a moment. Soon, Shinee and her mother concluded their discussion about the succubus constitution. They then shifted to threatening me not to tell the counselor about today's events. Not only that, she even picked up a fruit knife from the table. The entire atmosphere around her exuded a dangerous aura. Su Yuan, I advise you not to meddle in this matter. Regarding my mother staying in the dormitory, I hope you can keep it a secret, otherwise, I will definitely not let you off. I glanced down at the miniature camera hidden in my backpack accessory, confirming it was in place. I happily agreed to Shinee's request. Don't worry, I definitely won't report your mother's situation to the school. Taking advantage of Shinee's stable mood, I immediately left the dormitory. After obtaining evidence sufficient to get Shinee expelled from school, I felt much more cheerful. Except for Shinee and her mother, my childhood friend Songjo will also have to pay the price, but rather than doing it myself, I prefer to watch them fight among themselves. So now, I must find a trigger that will turn Shinee and Songjo against each other. Just as I was wondering how to proceed, a notification sound suddenly came from WeChat. Upon opening it, it turned out to be Jiang Yen, who hadn't been in touch for a long time. It's strange, really, this life's Jiang Yen. Compared to the previous one, he has clearly become much more indifferent. The boy who used to love chatting with me in the past is now as cold as ice towards me in this life. Even when we pass each other, he only greets Shinee beside me. As for me, he doesn't even acknowledge my presence. How come he suddenly sent me a message now? With confusion, I clicked on Jiang Yan's WeChat. In view were 2 screenshots and a message. Jiang Yan, I guess you probably need this right now. Below the message, it was a screenshot of his chat history with Shinee. In the screenshot, Shinee's words were extremely bold and explicit. Every sentence carried a provocative undertone. When faced with Jiang Yan's questioning about her single status, Shinee even boldly spoke her mind. She said that Songjo was just her backup plan, being with him was merely for his money. In truth, the one she truly liked was always Jiang Yan. Just as I was wondering why Jiang Yan suddenly changed, Jiang Yan sent me another message. It was only 5 simple words. I have also been reborn. Upon reading this sentence, my mind went completely blank. In my previous life, after I was abducted, Jiang Yan was undoubtedly the most heartbroken person besides my family. He always believed that it was because of his confession that led to Shenyi's ruthless actions against me. In order to redeem me, and also to redeem himself, Jiang Yan sought every opportunity to get close to Shenyi. Not only did he fail to find evidence of her involvement in human trafficking, but he was also drugged and raped by her, and during that tragic incident, he was infected with HIV by Shenyi. Yet even so, Jiang Yan never gave up. Seeing that the path through Shenyi was not working, he took out all his savings. I have traveled to almost every remote village hidden deep in the mountains across the country. I thought that would be enough to find me, but along the way, the burden became too heavy, causing my illness to spiral completely out of control, and I ended up dying a miserable death far from home. Thinking of this, my heart aches for no reason. In my previous life, without Shenyi, I might have actually agreed to Jiang Yan's confession. Unfortunately, there are no what-ifs in this world. With Jiang Yan's help, my plan went incredibly smoothly. I sent Songzhe an anonymous screenshot of the chat logs between Jiang Yan and Shenyi. Sure enough, not long after I sent the record to Songzhe, he started bombarding me with messages. Who are you? Where exactly did you get this screenshot from? This can't be a photo you edited. It must be because you can't stand my EE. So you're deliberately spreading rumors to slander her. I'm not going to distrust EE just because of two screenshots from some unknown person, trying to ruin our relationship. Dream on. Looking at the text Songzhe sent me, I curled my lips disdainfully. Don't be fooled by how confidently he claims to trust Shenyi now. Once a seed of doubt is planted, it will take root and sprout in the cracks. From this day forward, every moment of concealment or hesitation will become the nourishment at the crack. Starting today, any slight movement of Shenyi would become Songzhe's target. As expected, just 3 days later, Shenyi suddenly started contacting me frequently. Since dating Shenyi, Songzhe has always treated her very well, never stingy with money, takes care of every detail of life, doesn't overly restrict her in daily life. But tonight, Songzhe suddenly acted out of character. Not only had her temper become unusually explosive, but even when she spent a little time scrolling through videos on her phone, he would appear beside Shenyi with a dark expression, yelling, "Let me see if you're talking to another man," and then snatching the phone right out of Shenyi's hand. Just 3 days later, Shenyi couldn't take it anymore, came to me to vent crazily about Songzhe. Su Yuan, Songzhe must be crazy. You don't know, these past 3 days, he's been so neurotic. He follows me when I go out, he follows me to class, and even when I go to the bathroom, he's practically trying to crawl into the toilet to keep an eye on me. What's most outrageous is that he actually cut off my injection expenses. Right now, my mom and I are at a critical stage of awakening our succubus physique. With him messing things up like this, am I going to fail at the last moment? It's quite strange. Shenyi, for her part, has always been very patient with men. Her flirtatious gestures are a series of well-practiced moves. Yet, with Songzhe, she has absolutely no patience at all. Whenever Songzhe did anything to upset her, she would fly into a rage. This was a stark contrast to her usual gentle and naive demeanor. This time, she endured for 3 days, trying to avoid cutting off her injection expenses from Songzhe. Enduring on the left and right, she held on for 3 days. After 3 days, she couldn't stand it anymore. She actually came to me seeking a breakthrough. Shenyi asked me to persuade Songzhe properly, not to completely cut off the funds for her injections. When I saw this sentence, I really thought she was being somewhat inexplicable, but then I thought of her mother, and I instantly understood. No wonder they say Shenyi and her mother are mother and daughter. These two really know how to boss people around, but I have no interest in getting involved in their mess. Not only did I not help Shenyi console Songzhe, but I also added fuel to the fire for these two. While Shenyi went back to the dorm to take care of her mother, I reported the video to the school. In the video, Shenyi's mother was practically a biochemical weapon. She is trembling as she feeds on my bed with her terrifying tentacles. Then, even more brazenly, she made explosive remarks to Shenyi about capturing all the male students with her succubus physique. This time, the counselor could no longer sit still. The leader, who was originally scheduled to check the dorms on Friday, also came because of this video, arrived at Shenyi's dorm a day early. What a coincidence! Just as the leader arrived, they were caught in the act. Shenyi was sneaking out with her heavily wrapped up mother. They had originally planned to quietly leave the dorm before the leader's inspection. Even the dorm supervisor on the first floor had been bribed by Shenyi. At this moment, she was pretending to have diarrhea and running to the toilet to squat. Unexpectedly, the school leaders arrived early. What's more, The two parties even ran into each other head-on. This scared Shin-Yi so much that she grabbed her own mother and tried to make a quick escape. However, they were still detained by the counselor. Not only that, but they also forcibly removed the bedsheet wrapped around Shin-Yi's mother. I can't even imagine it, how shocked the leaders would be when they saw the true face of Shin-Yi's mother. That night, the school's confession wall suddenly exploded with activity. Countless netizens who were on site eating melons rushed to the confession wall to vent. Damn, it's disgusting. Never expected that the giant octopus Shin-Yi raised would be her mother. A cluster of tentacles composed of various warts stood upright in the air, trembling with the wind. The sight was truly a devastating blow to my fragile soul. I believe Shin-Yi poses a serious threat to the personal safety of other students. She must be expelled from school. After this incident, Shin-Yi was indeed expelled from the school, but this was not the end of it. Since Shin-Yi was fired, she began to suspect that she had been reported by someone. Thinking of the past few days, she and Songja had been constantly arguing. Now, she firmly believed that it was Songja who reported her to the school leaders. As soon as he got home, he punched and kicked Songja. Her mother saw this. She also went up to help her daughter and beat Songja severely. If he were a normal man, he would have long since left Shin-Yi, this lunatic. Yet Songja was different. He could truly be called the ultimate simp among simps. Even when faced with Shin-Yi in her manic state, he still loved her deeply. Not only that, but after hearing that Shin-Yi had been expelled from school, he even felt secretly pleased in his heart. He believed that as long as Shin-Yi left the campus and couldn't see Jiang Yen, she would eventually fall completely in love with him. However, Songja had no interest in Shin-Yi's mother. He simply found her too noisy and locked her in the basement. However, Songja's forced affection didn't last long. Not long after, all three people living under the same roof were taken to the hospital by an ambulance. When they saw Shin-Yi and her mother, even the usually composed doctors couldn't help but vomit on the spot. When has the hospital's laser wart removal equipment ever had such a heavy workload? Seeing this, the doctors and nurses prepared for a long battle, but the doctor had barely approached Shin-Yi and her mother. They pushed them away with a single shove. Shin-Yi wildly waved her arms, trying to stop the doctor from approaching. Don't touch them, don't touch them, these are my succubus tentacles. I still need them to get Jiang Yen. You quack, who told you to touch it? As a result, Shin-Yi and her mother never got the surgery. Instead, it was Songja who was more receptive to the doctor's advice. He had all the various warts on his body removed with laser treatment. However, this did not change the outcome of their body's decline. Shin-Yi and her mother were not only diagnosed with HIV, syphilis, gonorrhea, and more, they were also diagnosed with advanced cervical cancer after a biopsy. When I brought Jiang Yen to the hospital to see my mother, I happened to see Songja rolling on the ground, clutching his head. Impossible, impossible, my body is perfectly fine. How could I possibly have penile cancer? It must be you, it must be this bitch who infected me. I knew it. How could there possibly be a succubus tentacle in this world? After saying this, Songja let out a strange cry and charged toward Shin-Yi. In the face of life, Songja finally gave up on continuing to be Shin-Yi's lapdog. Two people were screaming and wrestling in the hospital corridor. However, due to poor physical condition after being diagnosed with cancer, it looked like two thin noodles fighting. During this time, Shin-Yi finally completely broke with Songja, sneeringly attacking Songja with words. Songja, what does your current state have to do with me? In the end, it's all because you were willing. If it weren't for your stinking money, do you think I'd even look at you? Compared to Jiang Yen, you're really far behind. Upon hearing this, Songja was so enraged by Shin-Yi that he spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and Shin-Yi also went completely insane when she saw me holding hands with Jiang Yen. She staggered forward, flailing her arms wildly towards us. Su Yuan, you bitch, what right do you have to hold hands with Jiang Yen? He's mine, let go of his hand right now. But soon, she was taken away by the security guards who rushed in. News about Shin-Yi's family was heard again. It was already half a year later. Shortly after their family was discharged from the hospital, Shin-Yi's mother passed away due to multiple metastases of cancer. With no cure, Shin-Yi, who had slightly better physical health, quietly passed away after enduring for 3 years. However, her death was extremely gruesome. By that time, she had already been in the 5th year of the AIDS onset stage. Not only was her body emaciated to the extreme, but she also developed complications in her nervous and cardiovascular systems. Various bacteria, fungi, viruses, and parasites have also infected the body. Even malignant tumors have spread throughout the entire body. The internal organs have weakened to the extreme, dying painfully in this torment. As for Song Zhe, he also couldn't endure the torment of cancer, although he had the cancerous part removed. Not long after, the doctors found malignant tumors in other parts of his body. After a year of chemotherapy, he sadly passed away. However, by this time, I no longer had the leisure to pay attention to them. I am very fortunate that in this lifetime, the people I love and those who love me have not encountered any accidents. On the very day Shen Yi was fired, Jiang Yan confessed his feelings to me once again. Just like in the previous life, he stood before me, holding a bouquet of strawberries that I love. With the most sincere words, he invited me to be his girlfriend. He said, "If it's us, there will definitely be a what if, so later." Of course, I agreed to him. Not only that, but we also took matters into our own hands and sued the institution that performed the private plastic surgery on Shen Yi. However, we certainly didn't do it for Shen Yi. Instead, it was to prevent other beauty-loving girls from being deceived. Although the process of going to court wasn't easy, fortunately, everything turned out well in the end. I glanced at Jiang Yan beside me, who was carefully selecting wedding rings, and my mother, who had stolen a moment from her busy schedule to help me choose a wedding dress. I smiled with happiness. Look, in this lifetime, all of us are very happy. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. During the freshman military training, my roommate came across a video of a rich second-generation student who took a heat-stricken girl to the infirmary and ended up falling for her. She excitedly told me, "When we train later, I'll pretend to faint. Whatever you do, don't help me. Maybe I can also land a rich second-generation boyfriend." Seeing that she was serious, I kindly reminded her, "These are all low-probability events. We should just focus on the military training honestly. If you pretend to faint and get caught by the instructor, you'll be punished." My roommate eventually gave up on the idea after my persuasion. I never expected that on the very day the military training ended, a girl would post on the confession wall, claiming she had found a wealthy, handsome, and top-tier boyfriend by pretending to faint. Looking at the diamond necklace and designer bags in the photo, my roommate's eyes turned red with regret. I wanted to comfort her, but she suddenly turned around and pushed me down the stairs. "Cheng Yan, if it weren't for you, I would have already landed a rich second-generation boyfriend. You're just afraid I might have a better life than you, trying to use your family background to keep me as the green leaf that sets off your flower." My roommate resented me for making her miss the opportunity, even smashing my phone to prevent me from calling an ambulance. I died with deep resentment, only to open my eyes and find myself back on the day my roommate planned to fake a fainting spell. This time, faced with my roommate's eager anticipation, I simply smiled calmly. "All right, I won't interfere with you." Wan Shishir held her phone, and upon hearing my words, her previously excited and enthusiastic gaze actually turned hesitant. She pursed her lips and looked at me. "Yan Yan, do you really think this will work? What if after I pretend to faint, no one takes me to the infirmary, and the instructor finds out? Could I get punished?" Her tone was filled with concern as she looked at me hesitantly under the shade of the tree. I gazed at her fair and beautiful face, and a cold laugh suddenly echoed in my heart. In my previous life, I was worried that her feigned fainting would be discovered, so I kindly advised her not to always dwell on unrealistic things. At that time, Wan Shishir pouted unhappily, saying, "Yan Yan, why do you always think of things in the worst possible way? I'm so pretty. What if I pretend to faint and a rich second-generation heir actually takes a liking to me? Then I won't have to struggle so hard after graduation." Wan Shishir was indeed quite beautiful, the kind of delicate, innocent-looking girl who made people want to protect her at first sight. Fooled by her appearance, I thought she was just an overly naive girl and earnestly tried to persuade her, "Good things don't just fall from the sky. Let's just stick to the military training honestly. If you get caught pretending to faint by the instructor, you'll have to run laps as punishment." Wan Shishir was ultimately afraid of being punished, and under my persuasion, she reluctantly gave up on this absurd idea. I thought the matter was over, but on the day the military training ended, when Wan Shishir saw the girl on the confession wall bragging about how she had hooked a rich second generation, she regretted it so much that her eyes turned red. She pushed me down the stairs, her face twisted as she smashed my phone, watching me take my last breath. Before I died, I even heard her say, "Cheng Yan, you rich girls have no idea how hard it is for ordinary people like us to climb up. You made me miss my chance, and you deserve to die here today." Her voice was hoarse and Desperate, and I still haven't forgotten the feeling of slowly dying. I thought someone as crazy and brainless as her would decide to fake fainting after hearing me say I wouldn't interfere. Unexpectedly, when I didn't try to persuade her, she hesitated on her own. She was worried about being punished and considered the consequences very thoroughly, so in her previous life. Even though she knew I was speaking those words for her own good, she still blamed all the mistakes on me. A chill ran down my spine, my eyes turning cold as I said calmly, I don't know either. This is your own matter, you should make the decision yourself. Now that I knew what kind of person Wan Shishir was, of course, I wouldn't meddle any further in this lifetime. If she wanted to court disaster or pretend to faint to hook a rich second-generation heir, then let her go ahead anyway. It has nothing to do with me. Wan Shishir looked at me suspiciously, her eyes gradually turning red. Yen, I really consider you a friend, that's why I'm telling you all this. How can you be so indifferent? She accused me with a pitiful look, and I couldn't help but laugh at her words. Wan Shishir actually had the nerve to say that, in my past life, I considered her a friend and sincerely advised her, but in the end, it only led to a tragic death. As the only child in my family, when my parents received the news, one suffered a heart attack and was hospitalized, while the other's hair turned white overnight. Wan Shishir took advantage of the fact that there were no surveillance cameras in the dormitory hallway and claimed that I had accidentally fallen down the stairs. Not only did she continue her studies, but she also stole and sold the bags and jewelry I had left in the dormitory, living better and better. Such a person, who has done every bad thing imaginable, actually accuses me of being too cold-hearted. My expression grew even colder. Wan Shishir, we've only known each other for a few days, and we're just acquaintances who can exchange a few words. What you want to do has nothing to do with me, and there's no need to tell me about it. My indifferent attitude provoked Wan Shishir, and her tears fell one by one as she pitifully accused me. Cheng Yen, I thought of you as a friend, but it turns out I mean nothing to you. I'm never going to talk to you again. Her crying and fussing were quite loud, and another roommate, Xiao Yu, couldn't stand it any longer. She walked over and shielded her. Cheng Yen, is it really necessary for you to speak so harshly? We're all roommates, and we'll be living together for the next 4 years. If you act like this, who would dare to talk to you in the future? Xiao Yu firmly shielded Wan Shishir, proudly raising her chin as a few boys nearby glanced over. I looked up at her, a sarcastic smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. On the first day of school, Xiao Yu pointed at my limited edition bag and asked if I was being kept by some nouveau riche boss. After I slapped her, she held a grudge against me. After I died in my previous life, I found out that Wan Shishir, who claimed to despise Xiao Yu, often chatted with her when I wasn't in the dorm. When Xiao Yu learned that I had stopped Wan Shishir from pretending to faint, she rolled her eyes and said to Wan Shishir, Shishir, I told you before, but you didn't believe me, that Cheng Yen is no good person. You're so beautiful. If you seize the opportunity during military training to hook a rich second generation, you won't have to keep following her around as a little sidekick. I think she's deliberately holding you back, afraid that you'll actually date a rich second generation and end up living better than her. After I stopped Wan Shishir, she already felt regretful and secretly blamed me in her heart. After hearing Xiao Yu's words, she felt even more justified in placing all the blame on me. The two of them grew closer, and when I was in the dorm, they pretended not to know me well. Later, when Wan Shishir didn't have enough living expenses, I lent her some money, but Xiao Yu whispered in her ear that I was trying to buy her off with a few measly coins. When I wore a diamond necklace to go out to eat with Wan Shishir, Xiao Yu told her I was showing off my wealth and making her look like a mere backdrop. In short, no matter what I did, it was always wrong. On the surface, Wan Shishir appears to be friendly with me, but behind my back, she gossips about me with Xiao Yu every day, her thoughts growing increasingly twisted. So, in reality, both of them are the ones who caused my death. Thinking of the jealous look on Xiao Yu's face when she saw my parents transferring my living expenses, I let out a light chuckle. I'm here to study, not to make friends. Since we can't seem to communicate well, maybe it's best if we don't talk anymore. As I said this, my gaze was fixed on Wan Shishir. Wan Shishir's eyes were conflicted, perhaps thinking about the benefits I could bring her. She stopped crying and softened her attitude. Yen, she wanted to ease the tension with me, but Xiao Yu, eager to show off, indignantly grabbed her arm. Shishir, let's go. People like her, who come from wealthy families, will never treat you as a real friend. Xiao Yu pulled Wan Shishir away, and I didn't care at all. These two often got together in their previous lives. This time, it just happened a bit earlier. In this life, without my advice, Yuan Shishir still hesitated and didn't pretend to faint. I stood under the scorching sun, maintaining a proper posture, enduring for several hours until the training finally ended. After finishing the meal and walking back to the dorm, the door wasn't closed tightly, so I could clearly hear the conversation between the two people inside. Xiao Yu said excitedly, Shishir, this is your chance. What are you still hesitating for? You're young and beautiful. If you pretend to faint, there will definitely be guys who feel sorry for you and take you to the infirmary. I've checked it out, there are many low-key rich second-generation heirs in our university. As long as you hook one, you can become a wealthy wife in the future. She sounded so excited that she wished she could do it herself. Yuan Shishir wiped the sweat from her forehead, speaking with hesitation and anticipation. Can I really do it? What if no one helps me? Xiao Yu pulled her directly in front of the mirror and said firmly, Shishir, you're so beautiful, you can definitely do it. Just rest assured, when you hook a rich second generation, all the designer bags and watches that Qing Yan has, you'll have them too. Yuan Shishir was quite confident in her own looks, and upon hearing this, a flash of jealousy quickly passed through her eyes. Alright, then I'll give it a try this afternoon. When I make it big, I definitely won't forget you. The two of them chatted happily, while I stood at the door, a mocking smile tugging at the corner of my lips. Xiao Yu was determined to climb the social ladder, but her looks were too ordinary. By befriending Yuan Shishir, she could let Yuan Shishir go after rich second-generation heirs, and she could also take advantage of the situation to gain some benefits. They had a good plan, but among the real rich kids at school, few were fools. After the two of them finished talking, I pushed the door open and entered the dormitory. Yuan Shishir glanced at me sideways, perhaps having found confidence from Xiao Yu. She looked at me with disdain in her eyes. I ignored her, went to wash my face, and lay down on the bed, planning to rest well before training. When Yuan Shishir realized I hadn't paid her the slightest attention, her expression twisted for a moment. She shot me a glare, then grabbed her change of clothes and headed to the bathroom. The entire afternoon, Yuan Shishir was either showering or putting on makeup, making it impossible for anyone to sleep. I was woken up by the noise, but I wasn't the least bit angry. Because I know, Yuan Shishir has been putting so much effort into dressing up just to catch a rich second-generation guy this afternoon. In my previous life, at my persuasion, Yuan Shishir gave up on this idea and regretted it deeply. I'm curious to see what the outcome would be if, in this life, I let her have her way and allowed her to pretend to faint to catch a rich second-generation guy. When the broadcast reminded all freshmen to gather on the playground, Yuan Shishir had just finished styling her hair. She hurriedly picked up the perfume and sprayed some on herself, then asked Xiao Yu with an expectant look, how do I look? She looked good even without makeup, and with a full face of makeup, she naturally looked even better. A flicker of jealousy flashed in Xiao Yu's eyes, but she still smiled and praised her for looking beautiful. Yuan Shishir lifted her chin slightly at the praise, then turned her gaze to me. Seeing that I had only applied sunscreen, she looked even more pleased with herself. She and Xiao Yu walked arm in arm to the playground, chatting and laughing all the way like the best of friends. I stood in the girls' line, watching as Yuan Shishir and Xiao Yu lingered near the group of boys, trying to catch their attention. Many of the boys' eyes lit up at the sight of Yuan Shishir. Seeing that she had achieved her goal, she finally took Xiao Yu's hand and strolled over leisurely. The afternoon was the same as the morning, with standing posture and running drills. I gritted my teeth and persevered, sweat continuously dripping down. Yuan Shishir, who had put on a full face of makeup and looked exquisite and beautiful, was also sweating a little. Finally, after the standing posture training ended, the instructor told us to jog one lap around the track. Yuan Shishir wiped away her sweat, gritted her teeth, and as if she couldn't wait any longer, she tilted her body and was about to collapse. Xiao Yu promptly caught her, shouting anxiously, "Something's wrong, instructor, classmate 1 has fainted from heatstroke." In an instant, everyone looked over. I shifted my gaze away from Yuan Shishir, who was pretending to faint, and noticed that many male classmates were eager to step forward. Finally, a tall and sturdy boy raised his hand and volunteered, "Instructor, I'll take Yuan to the infirmary." He had a handsome appearance, and the moment he raised his hand, several girls began whispering among themselves, "It's actually Lu Qi." I heard his family is extremely wealthy. They even bought an apartment near the school just to make it more convenient for him to attend. That's him, that lucky girl, fainting from heatstroke and getting escorted to the infirmary by a rich second generation like him. The moment I saw Lu Qi, my eyes widened in surprise. Then I slightly curled my lips and glanced at Wan Shishir. Just then, the corner of Wan Shishir's mouth, who was pretending to be unconscious, couldn't help but curl upward, and Xiao Yu, who was supporting her, also looked excited. After receiving permission, Lu Qi smiled and walked over to Wan Shishir, scooping her up in his arms before striding toward the infirmary. The scene made the surrounding girls scream out loud, "Oh my god, it's actually a Princess Carrie, Lu Qi is so manly, I'm so jealous, if I were that girl, I would just marry him on the spot." Watching the two figures recede into the distance, I let out a cold laugh. There are indeed instances in this world where people are helped by kind-hearted individuals, but Wan Shishir had ill intentions from the start, planning to feigning to find a wealthy boyfriend. With such intentions, how could she possibly attract good people? I stayed in place to continue training until the session ended and returned to the dormitory. Only then did Wan Shishir come back. She was carrying a few cups of milk tea, with a new bag slung over her shoulder. When she saw me and Xiao Yu, she smiled with a shy expression. "Here. This is the milk tea Lu Qi bought for you." Xiao Yu quickly took it, looking at her new bag in astonishment, and said, "Oh my god, Shishir, did Lu Qi give you this bag? I remember it's so expensive." Wan Shishir was just about to show off the bag she had received, her face beaming with a smile as she chimed in, "Yeah, he said that since we've met, it's fate, and he insisted on giving me the bag. He even said he'd treat our whole dorm to a meal next time." At this point, Wan Shishir glanced at me triumphantly and handed the milk tea over to me. Yen, go ahead and drink it. This is also Lu Qi's kind gesture." I calmly declined. "No, I'm going to eat later." With that, I tried to walk past her and leave the dorm, but Wan Shishir suddenly reached out and grabbed me. She looked at me with dissatisfaction in her eyes and said, "Qing Yen, what are you acting so high and mighty for? Just a nouveau riche with a few stinking coins at home. Lu Qi is much richer than you, and I've never seen him be so difficult to talk to." I looked at her hand clutching the corner of my clothes, my expression darkening. "Let go." Wan Shishir thought that by hooking up with a rich second generation, she was now in the same social class as me. "She certainly wouldn't listen to me," she said arrogantly. "Qing Yen, let me tell you, I'll soon become Lu Qi's girlfriend. From now on, don't even think about making me the green leaf that sets you off. Apologize for your attitude right now, and we might still be friends in the future." She was rambling on and on, making me feel quite annoyed. Xiao Yu, who was sipping milk tea beside her, also spoke with a sarcastic tone. "That's right, if you apologize now, stop showing off your wealth in the future, keep a low profile, and put away your bags and clothes, we can still get along well." I couldn't take it anymore and immediately slapped Wan Shishir, not even sparing Xiao Yu. "What a bunch of nonsense. I dress like this at home all the time. Why should I have to put my things away just because you're overly sensitive and insecure?" After my death in my previous life, I could never understand why my two roommates had been so hostile and critical of me. I had never offended them since the start of the semester and had always been friendly and polite. It was only later that I understood, because my family was well off, they couldn't compare in terms of food, clothing, and daily necessities. When I had things they didn't, inviting them to eat was showing off, and not inviting them was being stingy. Anyway, they would never see me in a favorable light. Since they were so displeased with me, there was no need for me to hold back. The two of them never expected me to strike, and they instantly exploded. "Qing Yen, what the hell gives you the right to hit me?" Xiao Yu was the first to curse out loud. Wan Shishir covered her face with her hand, her gaze at me filled with a murderous intent. I shook my numb hand and sneered, "Why can't I hit you when you're so shameless?" Xiao Yu was furious. "I'm going to call the police. I'm going to find the counselor." Wan Shishir didn't stop her, her eyes dark and gloomy, clearly sharing the same sentiment. "I wasn't afraid at all. Go ahead, I recorded all your ridiculous remarks just now, let's see who ends up more embarrassed." I took out my phone and waved it in front of them, my eyes filled with mockery. Xiao Yu's face turned a mix of green and red, looking utterly miserable. Wan Shishir, who had just been glaring at me with a dark expression, quickly changed her expression, forcing a strained smile. Yen, we were just joking with you earlier, we weren't trying to force you to put your things away. Please don't act impulsively. Anyway, we're roommates, there's no need to make such a big deal out of it." Her words sound nice, as if she doesn't want to escalate things, but in reality, she's just afraid I'll expose her ugly side and ruin her chances with the rich second generation she just hooked. I let out a light laugh and warned her, "Wan Shishir, if you want to chase after men, that's your own business. It has nothing to do with me. Don't keep trying to get my attention, Or don't blame me for exposing you, since we've already torn off the mask. I certainly won't hold back with my words. Xiao Yu had never gotten along with me in the first place, and hearing this made her face turn dark with anger. She raised her hand, ready to fight me. It was Yuan Shishir who reached out to stop her, forcing a stiff smile as she said, "Yen Yen, don't worry, we definitely won't say that kind of thing again in the future." She lowered her posture, but I didn't look at her, picking up my bag to head to the cafeteria for a meal. Behind me, Yuan Shishir clenched her fists tightly, glaring at my back with resentment. After a while, she finally pulled the equally angry Xiao Yu out of the dormitory. In the first-floor cafeteria, I got my food and sat in a corner halfway through my meal. I noticed Yuan Shishir walking in arm with Lu Qi, with Xiao Yu following behind them. They got their food and sat not far from me, chatting and laughing. "Shishir, we can't leave campus right now, but once the military training is over, I'll treat you and your roommates to a meal at a Michelin restaurant." Lu Qi looked at Yuan Shishir with deep affection. Yuan Shishir blushed and shyly refused. "Brother Lu Qi, we've only just met. How can I let you spend so much?" Xiao Yu's eyes lit up, but she followed up by saying, "Yeah, if you really want to treat me and Shishir to a meal, just pick a restaurant." Lu Qi smiled as he looked at Yuan Shishir, his voice full of affection. "Ordinary restaurants aren't good enough for Shishir. If we're going to treat her, it has to be somewhere nice." They had just met today, and he had already given her a designer bag. Yuan Shishir was already smitten, and hearing this made her blush even more. She was too shy to look at Lu Qi. "Brother Lu Qi, you're so good to me." The girls around them, upon hearing Lu Qi's words, felt both sour and envious. That girl is so lucky, having a rich second generation like Lu Qi chasing after her right at the start of the semester. Yeah, and he's already inviting her to a Michelin-starred restaurant before they're even dating. Imagine how much better he'd treat her if they were together. Yuan Shishir looked at Lu Qi with admiration, while Lu Qi silently sized her up from head to toe, his gaze growing increasingly satisfied. Seeing Yuan Shishir already falling for it and believing Lu Qi, I silently shook my head. "I'm a local, and many of my friends' families are in business or run companies anyway. I've never heard of any family surnamed Lu doing big business. The only Lu family I know in business is a small company on the verge of bankruptcy." Thinking of this, my smile turned playful. "I heard the son of the owner of that small company did a lot of shady things to save the company. If Lu Qi is that person." After one last glance at Yuan Shishir flirting with Lu Qi and Xiao Yu staring at him with burning eyes, I picked up my tray and left. Good advice is wasted on those who are determined to ruin themselves. Yuan Shishir has a terrible personality, and Xiao Yu isn't a good person either. No matter what fate befalls them, they deserve it. In the following days, I attended military training as usual every day. Meanwhile, Yuan Shishir found various excuses to avoid the training. Lu Qi often sends her food, and even has people deliver expensive cosmetics and jewelry to her, sticking to her every day. Having learned from the previous lesson, she didn't dare to cause trouble for me like before, but since I live in the dormitory, I could hear her and Xiao Yu talking about how good Lu Qi is to her. "Ah, you know, this is the first time a man has treated me so well. Before college, I never imagined I would meet a man as good as Lu Qi. Last time we were walking on the playground, I accidentally sprained my ankle, and he actually carried me straight to a chair and massaged my ankle for me." Xiao Yu listened with both envy and jealousy, and in the end couldn't help but say sourly, "Shishir, you're really lucky. Lu Qi has spent tens of thousands on you these past few days." Yuan Shishir's eyes gleamed with pride. Seeing the envy on her face, she pretended to be magnanimous and said, "You, don't worry, I won't forget you. Next time we go out to eat, make sure to dress up nicely. I'll ask Lu Qi if he has any friends to introduce to you." Xiao Yu immediately brightened up. "Shishir, you're so good to me." The two of them eagerly looked forward to Lu Qi taking them to a Michelin-starred restaurant and chatted for a long time. I lay in bed, looking at the information I had someone investigate on my phone, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Xiao Yu immediately frowned and looked over, thinking I was mocking them, her tone unfriendly. "Cheng Yen, what are you laughing at?" Yuan Shishir remembered that I had a recording in my hand and tugged at her sleeve. Telling her not to cause trouble for me, I replied to her in a good mood, "Nothing much, just saw a joke on my phone." Of course I was going to laugh. Two idiots went to great lengths to find a scumbag and even treated him like a treasure. How ridiculous. On the day military training ended, I went to the cafeteria to eat first before returning to the dorm. Downstairs in the dormitory, Yuan Shishir and Xiao Yu had both dressed up carefully, standing there waiting for someone. I know they're waiting for someone, so I can't be bothered to deal with them and just try to walk past them. Wan Shishir is on the phone, and when she sees me, she says to the person on the other end with a troubled tone, "Brother Lu Qi, my roommate already said she won't go." Her phone is on speaker, and Lu Qi's voice quickly comes through. "I can sense that you and your other roommate aren't getting along very well, Shishir. You'll be living with your roommates for the next 4 years. If you can use this opportunity to improve your relationship, it would be a good thing for you." Wan Shishir was initially reluctant, but after hearing this, she immediately smiled happily. "Then I'll ask her again," she said, stepping directly in front of me to block my path, and invited me with a smile. "Yen Yen, Lu Qi is treating our dorm to a Michelin-starred meal today. I know you don't want to go, but he asked me to check with you again." I frowned and was about to refuse when Lu Qi's voice suddenly sounded from behind me. "Shishir, I'm here. This must be your other roommate." He flashed what he thought was a charming smile, but halfway through his sentence, his expression shifted slightly upon noticing the various pieces of jewelry I was wearing. I watched him calmly and said directly, "I'm not interested in your dinner plans. You all go ahead." Being rejected in front of Lu Qi, Wan Shishir pursed her lips in grievance and looked at Lu Qi, hoping he would say a few words to help her, but Lu Qi just gave a stiff smile and then reached out to put his arm around her. "Shishir, since your roommate doesn't want to go, let's not force her. Let's go. We still have to go sing after dinner." Lu Qi led the two of them away, while I returned to the dormitory at 8 o'clock in the evening. The instructor sent me a message saying that my off-campus accommodation application form had been stamped and I could move out tomorrow. I replied to the message, opened my social media feed, and saw that Wan Shishir had posted a few pictures of a restaurant just a few minutes ago, along with a caption, "Flowers, a restaurant, a romance that belongs only to him and me." I frowned, glanced at it, and then exited WeChat. At that moment, Wan Shishir and Xiao Yu were completely captivated by the Michelin restaurant. Soon, they would learn what kind of scumbag Lu Qi truly was. I closed my eyes to sleep, and around midnight, my phone suddenly rang several times, thinking it might be an important message. I picked it up only to find that it was from Wan Shishir. "Yen Yen, save me, save me. Lu Qi is a beast. He took advantage of me and Xiao Yu being drunk and sent us to an old man's bed. Only you can save us now. Call the police quickly. I don't want to be tormented by that old man anymore." Upon seeing the message, my mind cleared up a bit. Lu Qi indeed did just that. A couple of days ago, I asked an acquaintance to help investigate and directly got a clear picture of the Lu family's situation. The Lu family's company has been performing poorly over the past 2 years and has been on a continuous decline. This year, it has even reached the point of being on the verge of bankruptcy. Lu Qi, in order to secure business deals for his family, deliberately used money to get close to some beautiful but ordinary or poor girls. Once those girls fell for him, he would get them drunk and send them to the beds of various bosses to secure the deals. If the girls sobered up and threatened to call the police, he would intimidate them by saying that if they reported him, he would first accuse them of extortion and demand they pay back all the money he had spent on them. Many of the girls were young and easily frightened, so they had no choice but to let the matter drop. During military training, Lu Qi had already noticed from Wan Shishir's attire that she came from an ordinary family and would be easy to manipulate. Wan Shishir thought she had fainted to attract a rich second-generation heir, but in reality, she had given Lu Qi an opportunity. I turned off my phone and didn't call the police, pretending I never saw the message. Although this might seem heartless to others, this path was chosen by Wan Shishir and the others themselves. I have no obligation to save them. The most important thing for me to do is to move out of the dormitory first thing tomorrow morning, staying away from them to prevent them from going crazy like in my previous life and blaming everything on me. After turning off my phone, it persistently rang several more times. Just as I was annoyed and about to reach out to shut it down, it stopped ringing on its own. I couldn't be bothered to care whether Wan Shishir was in danger again on the other end, so I closed my eyes and fell peacefully asleep. Early the next morning, I packed my luggage and went downstairs, planning to head straight to the newly bought apartment off campus. I never expected that before even leaving the school gate, I would run right into Wan Shishir and Xiao Yu, who were returning to campus. Both of them were wearing hats, and despite it being summer, they were dressed in long sleeves and pants, completely covered up, even keeping their heads down. I didn't recognize them at first, but when they looked up and saw me, they shouted my name, and only then did I realize who they were. Wan Shishir's eyes were filled with anger as she strode over, followed closely by an equally furious Xiao Yu. "Cheng Yan, Why didn't you help us call the police yesterday? Do you know how much you've made us suffer? Yuan Shishir brought this outcome upon herself by harboring ill intentions. Yet instead of reflecting on her actions, she immediately blamed me for everything as soon as she returned to school. Her disgusting attitude only made me more grateful that I hadn't helped call the police last night. Otherwise, who knows if after reporting to the police, I might be accused of meddling in other people's business, I said with a cold expression. Yuan Shishir, as an adult, if you're in danger, you can call the police yourself. Why do you insist on asking for my help? Yuan Shishir glared with bloodshot eyes and said frantically, I already said it's inconvenient. I need your help. Do you know what kind of torment Xiao Yu and I went through because you didn't call the police? She wishes she could kill me, and Xiao Yu is also glaring at me with gritted teeth. Cheng Yan, you're just a malicious woman. You deliberately ignored us on purpose. Why don't you just die? Her face twisted as she cursed, even trying to hit me. My eyes turned cold, and I slapped her without hesitation. Yuan Shishir, who rushed forward to grab my hair, was also kicked away by me. You make your own choices, you take responsibility for them. Didn't your parents teach you that? Yuan Shishir, it was your own choice to pretend to faint and hook a rich second-generation guy. You accepted the flowers and bags, you enjoyed all the perks. Why do you go crazy and blame me as soon as something goes wrong? Why don't you kneel down and slap yourself dozens of times, asking yourself why you did that in the first place? I really look down on people like Yuan Shishir and Xiao Yu. It's not that I look down on their desire to date rich second-generation heirs, I simply look down on the two of them. I've always believed that no matter what decisions people make, they must be thoroughly considered. If they succeed, of course they can be happy, but if they fail, they must also have the ability to clean up their own mess. These two not only lack the ability to clean up their own mess, but they also harbor resentment toward the wealthy. If anything goes even slightly wrong in their lives, they blame it all on me. Like a madwoman, Xiao Yu stood frozen in place, her expression filled with regret and pain as she seemed to recall something. Yuan Shishir's face was swollen and red from the slap. At first, she glared at me with hatred, then suddenly turned her gaze toward Xiao Yu. Yes, I had already given up. Xiao Yu, it's you. It was you who kept whispering in my ear, telling me I was young and beautiful, and that I could definitely use this opportunity to hook a rich second-generation heir. You also said that as long as I was with a rich second-generation heir, I would never have to put up with Cheng Yan's attitude again. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have ended up like this. Yuan Shishir's eyes were filled with red veins, and her expression was terrifying as she spoke. She suddenly rushed over, grabbed Xiao Yu by the neck, and pinned her to the ground, her hands tightening relentlessly. Xiao Yu was completely caught off guard, her head hitting the ground hard, her eyes bulging from being choked, her face turning blue and purple. I was so frightened that I took a few steps back with my suitcase, and the other passing students around were also startled. There are too many people on a university campus, and there will always be some with ill intentions, but most are warm-hearted and friendly. After being frightened, a few college students mustered their courage and gathered around, trying to separate the two, but Yuan Shishir was blinded by her rage, gripping Xiao Yu's neck tightly and refusing to let go. By the time everyone managed to separate her from Xiao Yu had already stopped breathing. She killed someone. Someone looked at Yuan Shishir, their expression fearful. Yuan Shishir seemed to snap back to reality and looked at her own hands, her lips trembling. I killed someone, she muttered several times, and after the fear passed, her eyes turned fierce again. She deserved it. She's the one who drove me to this point. She deserves to die. The people around didn't dare to approach, watching her warily, dragging my suitcase. I watched Yuan Shishir's extreme behavior and silently stepped back. Yuan Shishir cursed, then suddenly turned and glared at me fiercely, shouting, "And you, Cheng Yan, you deserve to die too. If you had stopped me back then, I wouldn't have ended up like this." As she spoke, she lunged forward. Seeing that she wasn't holding any weapon, a few classmates nearby mustered their courage and rushed to stand in front of me, trying to restrain her. I also heard several classmates calling the police. Seeing that she couldn't harm me, Yuan Shishir somehow found the strength to break free from the others and ran out of the school gate. Standing where I was, I immediately decided to stay at the school for the time being. Yuan Shishir was already in a frenzy, and it would be very dangerous for me to leave the school now. Not long after, the police and the forensic examiner arrived together. I cooperated by recounting the events, and the police immediately prepared to make an arrest. Early in the morning, I dragged my suitcase out of the dormitory building. only to return shortly after, although the presence of those two people's belongings in the dorm made me feel uneasy. Survival was the top priority at the moment. As it turned out, my cautious decision to stay on campus was correct, because that very night, Wan Shusher was apprehended by the police. When the police caught her, she was on top of Lu Qi, stabbing him repeatedly with a knife. Even after Lu Qi was already dead, she didn't stop, stabbing him while cursing him as a beast, as if she had gone mad. The police quickly subdued her, put her in the police car, and took her to the station. It wasn't until the next day, when I learned she had been arrested, that I felt at ease and took my luggage to the off-campus apartment. Wan Shusher killed two people in a brutal manner. Although there were reasons behind her actions, she still had to bear legal responsibility. On the day she was sentenced to death, I had just won first place in a fashion design competition and received my first scholarship in college. The past is behind me, and what lies ahead is an even brighter future. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.